You kids today, you think hustle means posting on TikTok or selling sneakers on eBay. Let me tell you about real hustle. Let me tell you about Sofia Moretti, the woman who owned Napa Valley before anybody knew her name. This ain't no fairy tale, Caro. This is a story about garlic, gunpowder, and a widow who refused to break. Grab a biscotti. We're going back to Brooklyn, 1959. I can still see Sofia standing in that empty trattoria on Court Street, 28 years old, hair tied back with a scarf, 2 babies asleep upstairs. Her husband, Tommy, had just dropped dead in some floozy's apartment in Queens. Heart attack, they said. Too much whiskey, too little shame. Left her with $400 in a cigar box, a pasta machine, and at least 3 months past due. The bank was circling like vultures. The landlord was pounding on the door. Her mother-in-law, God rest her miserable soul, was already whispering about taking the kids to raise them proper in Staten Island. Sofia didn't cry. Not then, not ever. Crying's for people who got time. She stood there, hands on hips, staring at a dusty bottle of Chianti on the shelf. It was the last thing Tommy bought before he decided another woman's bed was better than his own. That bottle was contraband, real Italian stuff, smuggled in before Kennedy got tough on imports. Worth $50 on the black market. Sofia picked it up, turned it in her hands, and whispered to nobody, "This is how we survive." That night, she scrubbed the trattoria top to bottom. Red and white checkered tablecloths. Sinatra on the jukebox, a sign out front, Sofia's red sauce joint. By Friday, the place was packed. Cops, dock workers, even a few low-level Gambino boys who tipped in quarters and leered like she was on the menu. Sofia smiled, poured wine, and kept her mouth shut. But her brain was moving faster than a subway train. See, Sofia wasn't just a cook. She was a calculator in an apron. Back in Naples, before her parents dragged her to America at 15, she'd balanced her father's olive oil books. She knew numbers. She knew people. And she knew that bottle of Chianti wasn't just wine. It was power. Her cousin Frankie was the key. Frankie drove a diaper delivery truck for a company in Buffalo. Big old van, always crossing the Canadian border. Babies don't pay tariffs, and neither do diapers. Sofia sat him down one Sunday, poured him espresso, and said, "Frankie, how many boxes fit in that truck?" He blinked, confused. 200, maybe 3. She slid a cannoli across the table. "What if we filled half with wine?" Frankie laughed, then stopped when he saw her face. "Sofia, that's federal time." She leaned closer. "So starving, Frankie. You want your kids eating out of cans? I Don baptized both of them. I know they like my lasagna." By spring 1960, they had a system. Frankie's truck crossed into Canada twice a month. Sofia's contacts in Montreal, old Naples boys who owed her father favors, loaded 50 boxes of Barolo, Chianti, and Brunello, labeled as diaper refills. She paid off a border guard with a tray of homemade cannoli and a promise to pray for his mother's soul. Back in Brooklyn, she sold the wine out of the trattoria's back room to restaurants, bars, and anybody with cash and no questions. First month, she cleared $1,200. By Christmas, it was $5,000. She hid every dollar in coffee cans under the floorboards of her apartment, right under the kids' cribs. Her daughter Maria, 6 years old, thought it was a game. "Mama, why you burying coffee?" Sofia kissed her forehead. "So we can buy a better tomorrow, tesoro." But Brooklyn wasn't kind to winners. By 1962, the Gambino boys noticed Sofia's place was doing too well. A guy named Vinny, 3 fingers, showed up, gold chain swinging, demanding $500 a month for protection. Sofia poured him wine, smiled, and said, "Vinny, you know I'm a widow. I got kids." He leaned close, breath like an ashtray. Then you better cook faster, sweetheart. Sofia didn't panic. She got creative. She started a fake ledger, 2 sets of books, one for the taxman, one for Vinny. The real money stayed in the coffee cans. When Vinny came sniffing, she showed him the fake one, crying about slow business. Look, Vinny, I'm barely making rent. He bought it, mostly because she fed him osso buco, so good he forgot to count. For 9 years, Sofia ran that operation like a general. She expanded to 3 trucks, added a second cousin, Joey, who was dumber but loyal, and even started smuggling small batch grappa for the high rollers in Manhattan. By 1965, she was moving 200 cases a month, clearing $20,000 profit. She bought her kids new shoes, paid for Maria's braces, sent little Tony to Catholic school. Nobody asked where the money came from. In Brooklyn, you didn't ask a widow about her miracles. But the life wasn't clean. Every night, Sofia locked the trattoria and checked the locks twice. She slept with a kitchen knife under her pillow. The Gambinos kept raising their cut. The feds were sniffing around after a truck got stopped in '67. And one night, when Maria was 12, she caught Sofia counting cash in the kitchen. "Mama, is this why you're always tired?" Sofia's heart broke. She hugged her daughter and lied. "Just helping Uncle Frankie Cara. Go to bed." By 1968, Sofia was 37, and the coffee cans held $187,000. $2 million in today's money. All cash. All hers. But the Gambinos were circling tighter, and a new Fed named Agent Russo, no relation, thank God, was eating at the trattoria too often, asking about her special wine list. Sofia knew the clock was ticking. One Sunday after Mass, she sat in the pew alone, staring at the Virgin Mary. "Madonna mia," she whispered, "I did what I had to. Now show me the way out." That night, she saw an ad in the paper. Napa Valley, California, land for sale. Bankrupt vineyards. Cheap. Sofia didn't know grapes from apples, but she knew dirt. Dirt was freedom. Dirt was a future her kids could touch. She called Frankie and Joey to the trattoria, poured them grappa and said, "We're done. I'm taking the money and going west." Frankie cried. Joey ate another meatball. 2 weeks later, she pried up the floorboards one last time. The coffee cans were heavy, rusted, smelling of Folgers and survival. She packed them in a suitcase, bought 3 Greyhound tickets, and woke Maria and Tony at dawn. "Where we goin', Mama?" Tony asked, rubbing his eyes. Sofia smiled, her first real smile in years. "Someplace where the vines grow free, Piccolo. Someplace ours." As the bus pulled out of Port Authority, Sofia looked back at Brooklyn one last time. The skyline faded, but the smell of garlic and gunpowder stayed with her. She didn't know it yet, but she was carrying the seeds of an empire in that suitcase. And nobody, not the Gambinos, not the feds, not even her own children, would ever take it away. Rosa's hands closed the album. She pours another espresso. That's how it started, kids. Sofia wasn't just a widow. She was a storm in a scarf. And the real thunder was still coming. Sit back. Eat another biscotti. We're going to California, 1969. The Greyhound hissed to a stop in St. Helena at 7:42 a.m. on a Tuesday in March. The air smelled like wet earth and orange blossoms, nothing like the hot asphalt and pizza grease of Brooklyn. Maria, now 10, clutched Sofia's hand so tight her knuckles went white. Tony, 8, dragged his little suitcase and stared at the mountains like they were giants. Sofia stepped down last, her sensible black pumps crunching on gravel. She wore the same wool coat she'd worn to Tommy's funeral 10 years earlier. It still fit. Grief keeps you thin. Inside the station, a payphone hung on the wall. Sofia fished a dime from her purse and called the number from the newspaper ad. A man answered. voice like gravel and bourbon. Napa Realty, Hank speakin'. Sofia straightened her shoulders. This is Mrs. Moretti. I'm here about the land. The 400 acres. The bankrupt one. Silence. Then a laugh. Lady, that place has been sittin' in since '66. You sure you dialed the right number? I'm sure, Sofia said. I have cash. Another silence. Then, be here in 20 minutes. Hank's office smelled like stale coffee and desperation. He was 60, sunburned, with a mustache that looked like it gave up halfway. He spread a map across the desk. 400 acres of dead vines, a crumbling farmhouse, 2 barns falling sideways. Asking price, $212,000. Hank leaned back. Bank wants it gone. You got a husband with deep pockets. Sofia opened her purse, pulled out a thick envelope, and started counting stacks of hundreds on his desk. 1, 2, 3, all the way to 212. The bills were crisp, wrapped in rubber bands, smelling faintly of coffee grounds. Hank's eyes went wide as dinner plates. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. You rob a bank, lady. Sofia smiled the smile she used on Gambino boys. I sold a restaurant. Very successful restaurant. He didn't ask again. Men never do when cash is talking. By noon the next day, Sofia Teresa Moretti was the legal owner of 400 acres of Napa Valley dirt. She signed the deed in blue ink, big looping cursive. At the bottom, in tiny print, she made sure the lawyer added, Sofia Moretti, a married woman dealing with her soul and separate property. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. You sure, ma'am? Most wives put their husband's name. Sofia tapped the pen on the paper. Most wives don't pay cash. He shrugged and stamped it. Done. The farmhouse was a disaster. Roof leaked like a sieve. Windows cracked. Mice threw parties in the kitchen. But the soil, oh, the soil. Sofia knelt down the first morning, scooped a handful, and let it run through her fingers. Rich, loamy, alive. Back in Naples, her father grew olives in rockier dirt than this. She whispered to the ground like it was an old friend. We're going to make something beautiful, you and me. First month was survival. She enrolled the kids in school, bought a used Ford pickup for $800, learned to drive it in the driveway, stalling 12 times before she got to the road. Maria cried every night for Brooklyn. Tony found a stray dog and named it Meatball. Sofia cooked pasta on a hot plate and slept on the floor with her suitcase under her head, the one with the last $8,000 hidden in the lining. She hired 2 Mexican workers, Jesus and Miguel, who'd been picking grapes since they were boys. Paid them cash every Friday, plus lunch. They taught her the land. Senora, these vines are old Zinfandel. Good bones. Just need love. Sofia rolled up her sleeves and gave love. She pruned. She grafted. She read library books on viticulture until her eyes burned. At night, she studied soil maps by lantern light while the kids slept. She learned about rootstock, phylloxera, frost pockets. She learned that Napa was about to explode. Rich people from San Francisco were discovering wine, and they wanted it fancy. 3 months in, she met Victor Russo. It was Saturday market in St. Helena. Sofia had a little table selling jars of her marinara sauce and homemade salami. Victor had the table next to her, tall, dark curls, green eyes, wearing a faded denim shirt rolled to the elbows. His sign read, Russo Family Wines since 1952. His wine was terrible, sour, thin, like vinegar with ambition. He tasted her sauce, closed his eyes, and moaned, Mamma mia, this is Brooklyn. Sofia laughed. Naples by way of Court Street. They talked all morning. He told her his grandfather came from Sicily in 1906 planted 10 acres. His father expanded to 50. Now Victor had 30 acres next to hers, but the bank was breathing down his neck. Taxes, bad harvests, competition from Gallo. He poured her a taste of his 1968 Cabernet. It was awful. Sofia swallowed anyway. Needs time. Victor laughed, a big warm laugh that made her stomach flip. She hadn't felt that flip since she was 16. He courted her old school, brought flowers he picked himself, took her to dinner at the one fancy restaurant in town and ordered spaghetti, then apologized when it wasn't as good as hers. He met the kids. Tony adored him immediately. Victor taught him to throw a baseball. Maria was suspicious until he fixed her bicycle. By fall, he proposed on the porch of her farmhouse, sunset painting the hills gold. He got down on one knee with a tiny diamond ring he'd saved for 2 years to buy. "Sofia, you make me believe in tomorrow. Marry me." She said yes before he finished the sentence. But that night, after he left, she sat at the kitchen table with a bottle of her hidden Barolo and wrote a prenuptial agreement on yellow legal paper. Next morning, she invited Victor for Sunday gravy. She cooked all day braciole, meatballs, sausage, the works. Poured her best limoncello. By the time dessert came, sfogliatelle she'd made from scratch, he was glowing, cheeks flushed, eyes soft. She slid the paper across the table. "Before we marry, we sign this." Victor blinked. "A prenup?" "Sofia, I don't have anything to protect." She smiled. "I do." He read it. Simple. Her 400 acres, stay hers alone. Any future children inherit equally, but the land never leaves her name. He laughed, tipsy and in love. "You're a businesswoman, eh?" "Always," she said. He signed without a second thought. Kissed her over the cannoli. "Whatever makes you happy, amore." They married in April 1970 at the little Catholic church in Yountville. Sofia wore a simple lace dress she sewed herself. Maria was flower girl. Tony carried the rings. Victor's mother cried through the whole Massachusetts. The reception was in Sofia's barn. Long tables, string lights, accordion player. She cooked for 80 people. Everyone said it was the best wedding Napa had ever seen. The honeymoon was one night in San Francisco because the vines needed tending. Back home, they combined the farms. Victor's 30 acres plus her 400. They renamed it Russo Moretti Vineyards. Victor handled sales, charmed the public face. Sofia handled everything else. She worked like a woman possessed. Up at 5 a.m. to check soil moisture. Studied UC Davis extension courses by mail. Ordered French oak barrels on credit she paid off with sauce sales. She planted Cabernet Sauvignon, Chardonnay, Merlot, varietals nobody in Napa was betting big on yet. Critics said it was risky. Sofia said risk was leaving Brooklyn with 2 kids and coffee cans full of cash. Victor traveled to San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, pouring their wine for restaurant owners. He came home with orders and stories. They loved it, Sofia. They said, "I have the Midas touch." She smiled, stirred the risotto, and didn't correct him. By 1972, they had their first good vintage. Sofia stayed up nights in the barn, punching down the caps, tasting every barrel. She blended like an artist. 80% Cabernet, 15% Merlot, 5% Cabernet Franc. Victor took it to a big tasting in San Francisco. Came home with a gold medal and a write-up in the Chronicle. Victor Russo, Napa's rising star. Sofia read it by lantern light, smiled, and folded it into her recipe book. That year Isabella was born. Then Marco. Then Vincent Jr., 5 children total. The farmhouse grew wings, new kitchen, new bedrooms, a wraparound porch. Sofia cooked for harvest crews of 30 men, 3 meals a day. She canned tomatoes, made prosciutto in the cellar, baked bread at dawn. The workers called her La Patrona behind her back. She pretended not to hear. Victor built a tasting room in 1974. Mahogany bar, crystal glasses, a big sign. Rosé Moretti, crafted by Victor Russo. Sofia sanded the bar herself, her hands raw. She hung a tiny crucifix above the door and said a prayer nobody heard. Let it succeed, Madonna, but let me stay invisible. By 1975, Rosé Moretti was on every important wine list from San Francisco to Manhattan. Robert Mondavi came to dinner. Sofia cooked ossobuco that made him cry. He toasted Victor. To the visionary who put Napa on the map. Everyone raised glasses. Sofia raised hers too, eyes twinkling. She knew the truth. She had chosen every vine, every barrel, every blend. She had paid for every pipe, every tractor, every payroll check. Victor was the face. She was the spine. That fall they threw the biggest harvest party Napa had ever seen. 500 guests. White tablecloths under the oaks. A band from San Francisco. Sofia cooked for 3 days straight, antipasti, risotto, porchetta, tiramisu for dessert. She wore a simple green dress and pearls. Victor wore a tuxedo and told stories to reporters. A writer from Wine Spectator pulled Sofia aside. Mrs. Russo, what's your secret? She laughed, wiping her hands on her apron. Love, signore, and a good recipe. He wrote, behind every great man is a greater woman serving lasagna. Victor clipped it for the tasting room wall. Sofia smiled and said nothing. That night, after the last guest left, Sofia walked the rows alone. The moon was full, silver on the vines. She touched a cluster of grapes, fat and perfect, whispered to them in Italian, We did it, amici. We really did it. Victor found her there, wrapped a jacket around her shoulders. You okay, amore? She leaned into him. Never better. He kissed her hair. I'm the luckiest man alive. Sofia closed her eyes. Yes, she thought, you are. But the land, the dirt under their feet, the vines that fed them, the future they were building, it was still hers. Sole and separate, signed in blue ink, locked in a safe behind the crucifix in the tasting room. She had given Victor a kingdom. She had kept the crown. Grandma Rosa closes the album gently. She lifts a small green folder from the table, faded with a gold seal, opens it to show the camera the 1969 deed, Sofia's looping signature clear as day. See this, Carl? This is power. Quiet power. The kind nobody sees until it's too late. Chapter 3 is coming, and that's when the children forget who really cooked the gravy. But that's for next time. Now, go refill your glass. Nonna's just getting warmed up. Ah, Bambini, this is the chapter that hurts the heart before it heals it. This is the one where love turns into habit, habit turns into invisibility, and invisibility turns into betrayal. This is 48 years of Sunday gravy scraped into the garbage because Nonna's food is too heavy now. Pour yourself something stronger than espresso. We're going deep. 1976 began with fireworks, literally. Rosé Moretti's 1973 Cabernet had just beaten Chateau Margaux in a blind tasting in Paris. Yes, the same judgment of Paris everybody talks about. The phone rang off the hook. Robert Parker wanted to visit. The Shah of Iran ordered 12 cases. Victor was on the cover of Time magazine, the Italian who conquered California. Sofia was in the kitchen at 4 a.m., making ravioli for 70 reporters who were coming that afternoon. Victor poked his head in, already in his new Armani suit. Amore, wear the blue dress today. You look beautiful in blue. She wore the blue dress. She also wore flour up to her elbows and a smile that never reached her eyes when the cameras flashed. The headline the next day, Victor Russo and his charming wife celebrate Napa's triumph. Charming wife. Like a poodle. The children came fast after that. Isabella in 1972, dramatic, born during a thunderstorm. Marco in 1974, colicky, only calmed down when Sofia sang Neapolitan lullabies. Vincent Jr. in 1976 came out screaming and never really stopped. Maria and Tony, the Brooklyn babies, were already teenagers helping in the vineyard. Maria learned to drive the tractor before she learned to drive a car. Tony could prune a vine blindfolded by 14. They knew whose hands had really built the empire, but children learn silence early when the world keeps saying, "Your father is a genius." The mansion grew with the money. First a swimming pool, then a guest villa, then a helipad because movie stars started visiting. Sofia cooked for all of them. Francis Ford Coppola, Jack Nicholson, even Princess Grace once. She fed them homemade gnocchi while they told Victor he was a visionary. She smiled, refilled the wine, and went back to the kitchen to wash dishes by hand because the new dishwasher didn't get the red wine stains out right. By the mid-'80s, the children only spoke English at the table. Sofia would say, "Manja," and Isabella would roll her eyes. "Mom, we're not peasants." Vincent Jr. went to Harvard Business School on a scholarship Victor never mentioned was paid for by Sofia selling her mother's last gold bracelet. Marco became a photographer in L.A. and only came home when he needed money for a new lens. Sofia kept cooking, kept canning, kept the books at night when everyone was asleep. She signed every check, approved every new planting, chose every barrel. Victor signed the labels. The world saw his face on every bottle. 1990s, the cult wine boom. Sofia Moretti, reserves sold for $500 a bottle on release. Waiting list 10 years long. Victor bought a Ferrari, then another. Sofia bought a bigger stove. The children called her old school. Vincent Jr.'s wife Clarissa, fourth generation DR, nose like a ski jump, redecorated the kitchen in white marble and stainless steel. Nonna, nobody uses a wood-burning oven anymore. It's so. 1950s. Sofia moved her wood-burning oven to the guest cottage and kept making bread at 3 a.m. so the smell would still wake the house the way it always had. 2000s. Victor's health began to slip. Too much rich food, too much praise. Doctors said slow down. He didn't. Sofia slowed down for both of them. She ran the vineyard, hired the winemakers, negotiated contracts while Victor napped in the tasting room. The employees still called her La Patrona. The family called her Mom or Nonna, and assumed the magic happened by itself. 2010. Victor had a small stroke. The children flew in private, sat around his bed like vultures in Lululemon. Clarissa patted Sofia's hand. "Don't worry, Nonna. We'll handle everything now." Sofia smiled the fox smile and went to the kitchen to make pastina and brodo, the way Victor liked it when he was a boy in Sicily. 2020, COVID hit. The vineyard lost millions. Victor, stubborn as ever, refused to sell a single acre. Sofia quietly mortgaged 2 small parcels she had bought in the 80s under a trust nobody knew about. Paid the payroll for 2 years. Nobody thanked her. They thanked Dad's foresight. 2023, Victor's 80th birthday. They threw a party for 400 people. Hired a celebrity chef from San Francisco. Sofia was asked to just make a few appetizers. She made 600 arancini by hand, alone the night before. At the party, the celebrity chef took credit. Sofia stood in the back, washing glasses, and listened to her grandchildren say, "Nana's getting forgetful. She keeps talking about Brooklyn like it was yesterday." March 15th, 2024, the day the world tilted. Victor woke at dawn, kissed Sofia on the forehead, said "Ti amo, tesoro," and walked to the barrel room to taste the new vintage. He dropped dead between barrel 412, 2021 Cabernet, and barrel 413, 2022 Merlot. The workers found him with a thief in his hand and a smile on his face. The funeral was obscene. 300 people in black, designer black. Black Range Rovers lined the driveway like a funeral procession for Fashion Week. Clarissa organized everything. Sofia was handed a black dress off the rack and told it was age-appropriate. At the cemetery, Vincent Jr. gave the eulogy. My father built an empire from nothing. Sofia stood beside him in the same black dress she wore to Tommy's funeral 65 years earlier, dry-eyed, gripping her rosary so hard the beads left marks. The reception was back at the mansion. Champagne flowed. Someone put Post Malone on the sound system. Sofia sat in the kitchen on a stool, watching her life be auctioned off in whispers. That night, the children gathered in the dining room. Sofia was bringing coffee when she heard them through the swinging door. Vincent Jr. Appraiser says 800 million easy. Maybe 9 if we split the parcels. Clarissa, I already booked the jet to Aspen to celebrate after closing. Isabella, what about Nonna? Marco, laughing. There's a lovely memory care place in Sacramento. Gardens, activities. They even have Italian night once a month. Vincent Jr., she won't even notice. She still thinks it's 1985 and Dad did everything himself. Clarissa, we'll keep her on the payroll. Give her an allowance. She'll be fine. Laughter. Actual laughter. Sofia stood frozen, tray of espresso cups rattling in her hands. She backed away slowly, set the tray down, and walked to the guest cottage without a sound. 2 days later they sat her down at the kitchen island like a board meeting. Vincent Jr. slid the brochure across the marble. Mom, we found the perfect place. Gated. Safe. They have a pasta station on Wednesdays. Sofia looked at the brochure. $14,800 a month. Looked at her son, 50 years old, still with baby fat on his cheeks from the milk she nursed him with, and asked quietly, and the house? We're selling. Split 3 ways. You'll have plenty. Isabella added, we'll visit on holidays. Marco was already on his phone, looking at yachts. Sofia folded her hands. I see. That night, she moved herself to the guest cottage with 1 suitcase and the green folder containing the 1969 deed. The next morning, the stickers appeared. Neon post-its everywhere. Vince Jr. on the grandfather clock that came from Victor's mother. Isabella on the dining table Sofia's father had shipped from Naples in 1952. Marco on the piano nobody played anymore. Clarissa walked around with a measuring tape. This wall is perfect for a wine fridge. Once Nonna's, gone. They said it to her face. Not cruel, just efficient. Like scheduling trash pickup. They took her car keys for safety. Changed the gate code. Moved her clothes to the cottage while she was at mourning Massachusetts cardboard boxes labeled Nonna, donate in black Sharpie. 1 box said, Old Lady Junk. Inside, her mother's gold crucifix, her wedding veil, the wooden spoon she'd used for 50 years of Sunday gravy. Sofia sat on the narrow bed in the cottage, holding that spoon like a weapon. The cottage smelled like mildew and broken promises. She opened the green folder, touched the 1969 deed, whispered in Italian. Ancora non è finita, figli mi. Not yet. For 6 weeks they treated her like furniture that talked too much. Fed her on paper plates in the kitchen while they ate filet mignon at the big table. Spoke about her in third person. Does Nonna still like oatmeal? Make sure Nonna takes her pills. Nonna's repeating herself again. One night, she overheard Clarissa on the phone. The lawyer says community property covers everything. She can't fight it. She's too old. Sofia smiled in the dark. She was 76, not dead. She started making quiet calls from the landline in the cottage when they were all asleep. First to Mr. Alden, the family lawyer who had known her secret since 1970. Then to a forensic accountant in San Francisco. Then to a title company that specialized in complex historical holdings. She gathered documents like ammunition. The original 1969 deed, the 1970 prenup Victor signed drunk on Limoncello, 45 years of property tax receipts paid from an account in her name only in 1987 quitclaim deed Victor signed, just in case, after his first stroke, he never told the children. Aerial photos showing every new building built with permits in her name because the land was hers. She waited. She waited. May 2024. They scheduled the will reading for the Tuesday after Memorial Day in the big glass law office in San Francisco. They dressed her in a beige cardigan, so she looks respectable. Drove her in the middle seat of the Range Rover like a child. On the drive, Clarissa said brightly, "Don't worry, Nonna. You'll love the new place. They have bingo." Sofia clutched her black purse, same one from 1969, leather cracked but strong, and said nothing. Inside the purse, the green folder and a bottle of 1976 Rosé Moretti Reserve, the one Victor died holding the thief for. She was saving it for later. At the law office, the children sat in the front row like it was front row Coachella. Vincent Jr. had new veneers. Isabella wore sunglasses indoors. Marco live-streamed on silent. Clarissa kept patting Sofia's knee. "It's okay, Nonna. Almost over." The lawyer began reading Victor's will, pouring rain against the glass walls. "To my beloved children in equal shares." Sofia raised her hand like a schoolgirl. "Scusa, Mr. Alden. May I say something first?" The room tittered. Poor old Nonna. She stood slowly, opened the green folder, and began laying documents on the table like a poker player with a royal flush. Grandma Rosa closes the album. Her voice drops low, almost a whisper. "This is where the gravy hits the fan, tesoro. Chapter 4 is blood in the soil. But you'll have to wait. Nonna needs another espresso, and maybe a little grappa for what comes next." She lifts the 1976 bottle from under the table, unscrews the cork, pours a single tear, just one, rolling down her cheek. "Salute, Victor. You kept the legend. I kept the land. And now the children are about to learn the recipe. This is the chapter you've been waiting for, Bambini. This is the one where the fox finally takes off the sheep's clothing. This is the one where $800 million disappears in front of their eyes. And Nonna doesn't even raise her voice. Light a candle. Pour the grappa. We're going to San Francisco." The law firm occupied the entire 42nd floor of 345 California Street. Glass walls, cold air conditioning. The kind of silence that costs $1,500 an hour. Outside, San Francisco was crying. A cold May rain that felt personal. They dressed Sofia like a doll that morning. Clarissa laid out a beige cardigan, pearl buttons, a skirt 2 inches too long. "Age appropriate," she said. Sofia wore it. She also wore the same black leather purse from 1969, the one that once carried coffee can cash across state lines. Inside, the green folder, the 1976 bottle, and a rosary made from olive pits her Nonna carved in 1923. They put her in the middle seat of Vincent Jr.'s new Range Rover autobiography. Clarissa sat in front with the driver. Vincent Jr. and Isabella took the third row so they could whisper about escrow schedules. Marco FaceTimed from the jet in Miami. "Save me a seat in the front. I land in 40. Nobody asked Sofia if she was comfortable. At the elevator bank, security made them empty pockets. Vincent Jr. grumbled about his Rolexes and Apple Watches. Sofia quietly placed her ancient purse on the conveyor belt. The guard glanced inside, saw the wine bottle, raised an eyebrow. "It's for after," she said softly. He waved her through. The conference room seated 20. Only 9 chairs were occupied. Front row, Vincent Jr., Clarissa, Isabella. Second row, Marco's empty chair with his Louis Vuitton backpack saving it. Third row, Sofia, alone, hands folded like she was waiting for Mass. Mr. Alden entered at exactly 10 a.m. 73 years old, pinstripe suit, voice like a church bell. He had been Victor's lawyer since 1971, and Sofia's silent ally since the night Victor signed the prenup, drunk on Limoncello. "Good morning," he began. "We are here to execute the last will and testament of Victor Antonio Russo." He opened the leather folder. Vincent Jr. leaned forward, already smiling the smile of a man calculating yacht length. Clarissa squeezed his hand. Isabella adjusted her Hermes scarf. Mr. Alden read the standard clauses. Bequests to charity. $5 million trust for the church in Yountville. Personal effects to the children. Then he paused. "And to my beloved wife, Sofia Teresa Moretti Russo, I leave my undying gratitude, my wedding ring, and the knowledge that every grape we ever grew was possible because of her." Vincent Jr. exhaled. "That's sweet. Now the real money." Mr. Alden cleared his throat. "Before we proceed to the residue of the estate, Mrs. Russo has asked to address the room." 5 heads swiveled like they'd been slapped. Sofia stood, 76 years old, 5'2" in orthopedic shoes, but the room seemed to shrink around her. She walked to the head of the table, opened the green folder, and began dealing documents like cards in a game nobody else knew they were playing. Document 1, the 1969 deed. She placed it in the center. Sofia Teresa Moretti, a married woman, as her sole and separate property. 400 acres, purchased March 18th, 1969. Cash. No mortgage. No cosigner. Clarissa laughed nervously. Nonna, that's ancient history. Community property laws." Sofia laid down document 2, the 1970 prenuptial agreement, Victor's signature wobbly from Limoncello. California Family Code Section 852. Separate property remains separate unless expressly transmuted in writing. This was never transmuted. Vincent Jr. S. face went the color of over-oaked Chardonnay. Document 3, 45 years of property tax receipts, all paid from Wells Fargo account 000-321-1976, sole signatory Sofia T. Moretti. Document 4, 1987 quitclaim deed signed by Victor after his first stroke, relinquishing any possible claim. Document 5, current Napa County assessor map, every parcel still titled solely to her. Mr. Alden spoke into the stunned silence. The operating company, Russo Moretti Vineyards Incorporated, leases the land from Mrs. Russo under a triple net lease executed in 1971. That lease contained a clause terminating upon the death of Victor Russo. It expired March 15th, 2024 at 9:17 a.m. Isabella actually whimpered. Sofia reached into her purse and produced the final document, a freshly executed 99-year lease with LVMH Moët Hennessy, signed yesterday in Paris. Annual rent, $22 million, paid in advance by wire. First payment already in escrow. She looked at her children for the first time that morning. Her voice was soft, almost tender. "You wanted to sell my land. You wanted to put me in a place with plastic flowers and bingo on Tuesday. You forgot one thing. I never gave it away." Vincent Jr. found his voice first. "This is insane. Dad built this. You were just the cook." Sofia unscrewed the 1976 bottle. The cork came out with a soft pop that sounded like a gunshot in the silent room. She poured 1 inch into a crystal glass Mr. Alden had quietly placed in front of her. "This bottle," she said, swirling the wine so dark it looked black, "is the vintage your father died tasting. I blended it. I chose every barrel. I wrote the notes he read to Robert Parker. Your father was brilliant at telling the story. I was the story." She took a sip, closed her eyes. When she opened them, the fox was fully out of the sheep. Mr. Alden slid a final paper across the table, an eviction notice effective 30 days. Security would be provided by off-duty Napa County deputies who had worked harvest for Sofia since 1975 and still called her La Patrona. Clarissa stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "You can't do this. We'll contest. Elder abuse. Undue influence." Sofia smiled the smile that once made Gambino enforcers back away slowly. "Contest what, Cara? The land was never his to give. The company has no vines without my dirt. And I am very much in my right mind." She turned to Mr. Alden. "May I have the keys to the mansion, please?" He handed her a new ring of keys. Every lock changed that morning. The old keys in Vincent Jr.'s pocket were now worthless plastic. Marco finally arrived, breathless from the elevator, Louis Vuitton backpack swinging. "What did I miss?" Isabella burst into tears. Real Gucci ones this time. Vincent Jr. looked like he might be sick. "Mom, please. We can work this out. Family meeting tonight. Sunday gravy. Whatever you want." Sofia picked up her purse. "I lost my taste for gravy made by people who think I'm already dead." She walked to the door, paused, turned back. "Oh, and Clarissa? The white marble kitchen you love so much? It's coming out next week. I'm putting the wood-burning oven back in. It never belonged to any of you." At the elevator, she pressed the button. The doors opened immediately. Mr. Alden had arranged it. Just before they closed, Vincent Jr. lunged forward. "Mom, wait." Sofia looked at him, really looked for the first time in years. The little boy who used to fall asleep on her chest during thunderstorms was gone. Only a stranger in a $5,000 suit remained. "You spoke first, Vincenzo," she said, the woman who had once sung him to sleep in Italian. They will only listened. The doors closed. Downstairs, a black Mercedes Maybach waited at the curb. Driver in suit, door already open. Sofia slid into the back seat, set the 1976 bottle carefully on the seat beside her like a baby. As the car pulled away, she rolled down the window and let the San Francisco rain kiss her face for the first time in 76 years, she cried. But only until they crossed the Golden Gate Bridge. Back in Napa, the children arrived home to find the gates, locked gates, new security, and a printed letter taped to the front door. "Dear Vincent, Isabella, and Marco, you have 30 days to remove your personal belongings. After that, everything becomes property of the land it sits on, which is mine. Love, Mama." Inside the mansion, every neon sticker had been replaced by a single white card in Sofia's perfect cursive. "This one's mine. Always was." Grandma Rosa lifts the 1976 bottle, kisses the label, sets it down gently. That night, Sofia slept in the master bedroom for the first time in 20 years. She opened every window so the vines could smell her again. At 3 a.m., she walked to the kitchen in her nightgown, lit the old wood-burning oven that had been hidden behind drywall, and baked a single loaf of pain di casa. The smell drifted across the valley like a battle flag. The next morning, the workers arrived at dawn. Jesus, now 68, silver hair, still strong as an ox, took off his hat when he saw her on the porch. "La Patrona," he whispered, eyes wet. She kissed both his cheeks. "Back to work, amico." We have a new wine to make." By noon, the children's belongings were in labeled boxes on the driveway. Clarissa's Birkin bags sat in the rain. Vincent Jr.'s golf clubs leaned against the gate like sad soldiers. Isabella's wedding dress, the one she'd never worn again, hung from a lemon tree dripping. Sofia stood on the porch in Victor's old bathrobe, drinking espresso from the cup he used every morning. She raised it to the sky. "Salute, amore. You kept the legend. I kept the land. Now let's they learn the difference." Grandma Rosa closes her eyes. A single tear rolls down her wrinkled cheek. Chapter 4 is finished, tesoro. The grapes turned redder that day, not from ripeness, from blood memory, from remembering who really bled into this dirt. Next chapter is the rose launches, and the world finally learns Nonna's name. She lifts the bottle in toast to the camera. To every woman who was told to stay in the kitchen, may your oven always be wood-burning, and may your deeds always be in your name only. Fade to black. The accordion begins to play, "Oh, Sol mio," slow, triumphant, dangerous. Bambini, this is the sweet chapter, the one where the vinegar turns back to wine, the one where 77 years of quiet becomes a roar nobody can ignore, the one where Nonna doesn't just win. She pours the victory and makes the world drink it. This is the rose that bleeds red. Grab your glass. We're toasting now. 1 year later. May 2025. The vines were heavy with promise, buds breaking like secrets finally told. Sofia woke at dawn in the master bedroom she'd reclaimed, windows open to the valley's breath. The mansion smelled like fresh bread again, her wood-burning oven roaring since 3 a.m., the first loaf cooling on the windowsill. No more white marble, no more stainless steel. She'd ripped it all out the week after the will reading, hired Jesus and Miguel's sons to rebuild it rustic, like a Neapolitan farmhouse dropped in California. Terracotta floors, exposed beams, a long wooden table scarred from 50 years of family she'd fed and forgotten. She sipped espresso from Victor's old cup, black as midnight, strong as memory. The eviction had been clean. 30 days exactly. The children begged at first. Phone calls, emails, even a certified letter from Vincent Jr.'s fancy lawyer, threatening familial duress. Sofia forwarded it to Mr. Alden, who sent back a one-line response. "Try it. See what happens." They didn't try. Instead, they slunk away. Vincent Jr. and Clarissa to a rental in Sacramento. The irony wasn't lost on Sofia. Isabella to a condo in L.A. Marco back to Miami, backpack lighter without the silver he'd tried to pack. They left behind echoes, a forgotten earring under the couch, a child's drawing in a drawer. Sofia boxed them up and mailed them COD. No note. The French conglomerate moved in smoothly. LVMH sent a team of suits from Paris, all bow ties and Bordeaux accents. They toured the land, tasted the dirt, nodded like priests at Massachusetts. Madame Rousseau, the lead said, kissing her hand. "This terroir is poetry." Sofia signed the 99-year lease over lunch she cooked herself. Osso buco that made them weep. $22 million a year, plus 10% of gross sales. They kept the Sofia Moretti name for the main line. But Sofia reserved one parcel, 20 acres on the hill, her original 1969 dirt, for something new. She called it Nonna's Revenge Rose. The idea came that first night alone, sipping the 1976 Reserve in the empty mansion. The wine was perfect, bold, balanced, a whisper of oak and eternity. But Rose? Rose was pink like innocence, tart like truth. It was the wine women drank when they were done, apologizing. Sofia sketched the label on a napkin, a black and white photo of herself at 28 in Brooklyn, arms crossed in her Trattoria apron, eyes daring the world to try her. Below it, in gold script, Nonna's revenge, because some grapes wait to ripen. She planted Grenache and Mourvedre on her hill parcel, varieties that thrived in heat and neglect. Hired a young female enologist from UC Davis, Elena, who'd written her thesis on forgotten women in viticulture. They blended in secret, tasting barrel after barrel in the old barn Sofia had converted to a lab. Tart but elegant, Elena said. Like you, Nonna. Sofia laughed for the first time in months. The launch was set for May 28th, 2025, exactly 1 year after the will reading. Sofia didn't advertise. Didn't need to. Word spread like wildfire in dry vines. Wine Spectator called. Forbes wanted an interview. Even Oprah's people emailed. Mrs. Russo, your story is inspirational. Sofia declined them all. Let the wine speak, she told Mr. Alden. The party was small by Napa standards, 200 guests, all invited personally. No celebrities, just workers who'd picked her grapes for decades, local women from the shelter she donated to, and a few old Brooklyn cousins who flew in on her dime. The hill was strung with lights, like stars. Tables groaned with food Sofia cooked. Antipasti risotto alla Milanese, porchetta roasted over open fire. The French suits came, bowing low. Jesus and Miguel wore their Sunday best, hats in hand. At sunset, Sofia stood on a makeshift stage, really just the porch steps, in a simple red dress the color of Chianti. 77, silver hair loose, no makeup but the lines life had drawn. She raised a glass of the rose, pink and glowing in the fading light. Friends, she said, voice carrying without a microphone, I came to this valley with nothing but dirt in my hands and fire in my heart. I built with a man who became legend. I raised children who forgot the hands that fed them. But this wine? This is for the women who build in silence, who wait, who ripen. Salute. The crowd raised glasses. The rose hit tongues like truth, crisp strawberry, hints of citrus, a backbone of minerality from her original soil. Murmurs turned to cheers. By 8 p.m., the first cases sold out. By midnight, the waiting list was a mile long. The next morning, the reviews hit. Wine Spectator, Nonna's Revenge Rose, 98 points. A revelation. Tart, triumphant, unforgettable. Forbes, Sofia Russo, the matriarch who owned Napa all along. TikTok exploded. Hashtag Nonna's Revenge trending with 50 million views by noon. Young women in aprons toasting to the Nonnas who waited. Sales, $200 a bottle. Sold out in 11 minutes on the website Sofia had Elena build. Proceeds, 20% to women's shelters across California. Because every woman deserves her own dirt, the label said. The children called that week. First Isabella, voice small. Mom, I saw the article. Can we talk? Sofia let it go to voicemail. Then Marco. Nonna, the wine's everywhere. Proud of you. Lunch. Voicemail. Vincent Jr. sent a text. Congratulations. We miss you. Family dinner. She replied with one word. No. Clarissa tried flowers. A massive bouquet from FDD, card reading, to the strongest woman we know. Sofia donated it to the shelter. By June, Sofia was a Napa legend. Tour buses slowed at her gate. Locals waved in town. The French sent a private jet for her to visit Bordeaux. She went, kissed cheeks, tasted their best, came home and whispered to her vines, "We're better." She hired more women, an all-female crew for her hill parcel, taught them pruning, blending, the Brooklyn way to bribe inspectors. Limoncello still worked. Elena became her right hand, the daughter she never had. July brought heat waves. Sofia walked the rows at dawn, hose in hand, watering by feel. The vines knew her touch. At night, she sat on the porch with the 1976 bottle, still half full, saved for special moments, and talked to Victor like he was there. Amore, you'd laugh. They call me a mogul now. The stars twinkled like they agreed. August. The children showed up unannounced. Vincent Jr.'s Range Rover at the gate, honking like entitlement. Sofia watched from the kitchen window. Let security handle it. Madame Rousseau is not receiving visitors today. They left notes. She burned them in the wood oven without reading. September harvest. Sofia picked the first cluster herself, juice staining her hands like blood. The Rosa's second vintage promised even better. Elena suggested expanding, a tasting room just for Nonna's line. Sofia nodded. But keep it simple. No marble. October, award season. Nonna's Revenge won Best New Wine at the San Francisco Chronicle competition. Sofia accepted via video. This is for every woman who was told her place was the kitchen and built an empire from it anyway. November, Thanksgiving. Sofia hosted for the workers and their families, 80 people under the oaks. No blood family, just chosen ones. They ate turkey with Italian stuffing, laughed till midnight. For the first time, Sofia felt full. December, Christmas Eve. Snow dusted the hills, rare for Napa. Sofia went to midnight mass alone, lit a candle for Victor, another for Tommy, one for her mother, whispered thanks to the Madonna. Back home, she opened the last of the 1976, poured 2 glasses, drank one, left the other on the porch for ghosts. 2026 dawned with more. Sofia bought another 50 acres adjoining hers, cash of course, started a foundation, Moretti Women in Wine. Scholarships, mentorships, land grants for single mothers, starting in viticulture. Because dirt heals, she said in her first interview. Wine Spectator cover story. The children kept trying. Birthday cards, Easter baskets, a desperate group email. Family reunion? Sofia replied, My family is the vines now. But in March 2026, Maria, the oldest, the Brooklyn baby who remembered the coffee cans, showed up alone. No car. Walked from the bus stop, hair graying, eyes tired. Stood at the gate till Sofia buzzed her in. They sat in the kitchen, wood oven warm. Sofia poured rose. Maria sipped, tears falling. I knew, Mama. About the land. The smuggling. I never forgot. Sofia touched her hand. Why didn't you say? Maria shrugged. They wouldn't listen. And you taught me silence is strength. They talked till dawn, laughed about Brooklyn, cried about Victor. Maria stayed the week, helped prune. When she left, Sofia hugged her tight. Come back any time, Cara. Maria did. The others? Vincent Jr. started a consulting firm that failed. Clarissa divorced him. Isabella wrote a memoir nobody read. Marco sold photos of sunsets. They faded like bad vintages. Sofia bloomed. At 78, she drove her cherry-red Ferrari license plate, My Dirt, to town for groceries. Waved at fans. Signed bottles at the shelter. Elena became partner. The foundation grew to national. Nonna's Revenge expanded to white, red, even a sparkling. Every label told a story, built in silence, drunk in victory. One sunset, Sofia walked her hill alone. Touched the vines, roots deep in her 1969 dirt. Whispered to them, We did it, amici. We really did. The wind carried rose petals from the garden Victor planted. They danced around her like applause. Grandma Rosa sets down the album, closes it softly. Her voice cracks just once. That's the end, tesoro. But ends are just new vintages. Sofia Teresa Moretti Rousseau, widow, smuggler, matriarch, legend. She didn't just own the land. She owned her story. And in the end, that's the sweetest revenge. Now dry your eyes. Pour yourself some rose if you have it. And remember, never underestimate a Nonna with a deed and a dream. She might just pour you under the table.